The land, shrouded in many mysteries, is a unique corner of the world where the standard of living is surprisingly low, but remains inaccessible to most travelers. This is a place where deserted streets stretch for many kilometers, creating a feeling of silent emptiness and ancient silence. On these streets, elegantly dressed traffic controllers drive vehicles with such grace and theatricality that it seems as if they are performing on stage. The country is deeply rooted in its ancient traditions, which is clearly evident in its architecture, clothing, and people's daily lives. However, behind this exterior facade lies something much more complex and strict. One of the most controlled and closed societies on the planet, governed by strict and often unusual laws. And this is North Korea, a country that attracts with its mystery and uniqueness, inviting you to look behind the scenes of its life and understand what everyday life is like inside the most mysterious and isolated nation in the world. In a modern tourist film, we will talk about the Korean Peninsula, where the neighborhood with the prosperous South Korean Republic remains only an external fact and a special, closed world reigns inside. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or North Korea, continues to be one of the most closed countries on Earth. Its territory covers about 46,500 square miles, which is approximately the size of the state of Mississippi in the United States. The country borders China and Russia, as well as South Korea, and has more than 150 miles of coastline along the Yellow and Japanese Seas. Nevertheless, despite their geographical proximity to the sea and accessibility to sea lanes, most North Koreans are almost completely isolated from the outside world. There are absolutely no concepts like Google, iPhone, or Starbucks here. These brands and technologies are unknown to them, as if they did not exist at all. The climate in the country is harsh and unpredictable. In winter, temperatures often drop below 30 degrees Celsius, and in summer it gets hot and humid, like in Florida. In winter, snow covers the ground, transforming the landscape, creating impressive beauty, but at the same time bringing serious difficulties to agriculture and transport. Power outages are common throughout the country, making the lives of its residents extremely difficult and unpredictable. All this fundamentally distinguishes everyday life in North Korea from the bright lights and comfortable conditions that can be observed in such megacities as New York or London. The country has a population of approximately 26 million people, and most of them live in Pyongyang, one of the most strictly organized and controlled cities on the planet. Living in this city is not a matter of choice, but rather a privilege provided by the state. Unlike in many other countries, it is impossible to simply buy or rent housing here. Only citizens selected according to strict criteria based on their dedication, achievements, and family history have the right to live in the capital. This makes Pyongyang one of the most carefully selected localities in the world, where all residents are Koreans who speak the same language. However, it is worth noting that their language, which has developed independently of South Korean for more than 70 years, differs significantly in vocabulary and pronunciation, which sometimes makes their speech alien to modern South Koreans. Many people believe that the entire Korean peninsula is one nation united by history and culture. But if you look at the map, it becomes obvious that there are actually two countries, North and South Korea, each with its own characteristics and policies. There is only one country inside North Korea, united under the leadership and within the framework of a certain ideology. In its capital, Pyongyang, the maps look exactly as depicted in textbooks, with one center of power and a single concept. Despite the existing hopes, in the 25th year, instead of the usual dates, the unique Yuche calendar began to be widely used on all street signs, calendars, and official documents in North Korea. This time frame exists exclusively in this country and is radically different from the generally accepted Gregorian, which is used by most countries of the world. According to this calendar, the year 2020, 5 is not the 21st century according to Gregorian, but the year beginning with the date of birth of Kim Il-sung, the founder of the nation and the national leader who is considered the divine founder of the state. For those who are accustomed to world standards, such a calendar creates a sense of a different temporal reality, as if North Korea exists on a completely different timeline, separated from the generally accepted course of time. Most travelers arriving in North Korea usually arrive at Sunan International Airport, located near the capital, and immediately head to Pyongyang, a city that welcomes them with its special atmosphere from the first minutes. This city seems to have been torn out of another world. It is unlike any other megacity on the planet. It is peaceful and orderly, and its architecture creates a sense of harmony and modernity while devoid of the chaos typical of cities such as New York or Tokyo. The focus is on tall, densely packed buildings that create a modern and austere appearance of the city, but there are no signs of the insane rhythm of the metropolis. Everything here seems balanced and thoughtful. Hundreds of residential towers ranging in height from 25 to 35 floors rise on the streets of Pyongyang. Many of them, despite their impressive size, are not equipped with elevators, which means that residents have to climb many steps every day to get to their apartments. Imagine this. If you live on the 30th floor and walk down every morning to take the bus, then your physical fitness will inevitably noticeably improve. But on the contrary, if you are not prepared for such a rhythm, your strength can quickly run out. Private cars are rare in Pyongyang, and most of the population travels by metro, double-decker buses, trams and taxis. During rush hours from 33 in the morning to 9 in the morning, and from 5 o'clock to 9 in the evening, public transport becomes very crowded. However, despite the huge flow of passengers, there is an amazing discipline and order in the city, which eliminates the chaos and crowding typical of many megacities. Unlike the traffic jams in Los Angeles or London, the streets of Pyongyang remain calm and organized. The lack of motorcycles attracts particular attention, while in Bangkok or Hanoi, the streets are literally full of moving motorcycles and scooters. Here you won't see any. Underground is the deepest subway in the world. Its depth reaches 110 meters, and it is designed as an air raid shelter with reinforced steel doors. It takes about 3.5 minutes to reach the platform by escalator. The temperature in the stations is kept at 18 degrees Celsius all year round, which provides a comfortable shelter for passengers even on the hottest or coldest days. You will hardly find street food on the streets. It is rare here. Sometimes you can see neat kiosks where school children in red ties stand in line for frozen sweets or fruits. The internet in the country is strictly limited, but residents still spend time browsing government-approved websites and news, which has become commonplace around the world. In the city streets, it is easy to spot women who have a variety of modern hairstyles. They are dressed in bright, elegant outfits and have badges with images of Kim Il-sung and MNIL on their chests, symbols of their ideas and ideology. These badges are a must-have item in the wardrobe of all citizens. In North Korea, people move through the streets with a quiet and confident grace that is different from the hustle and bustle typical of cities like New York or Paris. Their steps are calm, purposeful, and dignified, as if everyone is moving towards their goal without unnecessary worries, while maintaining inner confidence and calmness. This behavior gives the streets a special atmosphere. There is no rush, but dignity in every movement, which makes the city especially recognizable and memorable. One of the most striking and memorable sights in Pyongyang is the appearance of female traffic controllers at intersections. While in most countries, traffic police officers are selected based on their level of physical fitness, in North Korea, they are subject to 3 basic requirements: height, eyesight, and beauty. These women are young, tall, and statuesque girls, stern, looking, dressed in neat blue or white uniforms with well-ironed caps. At major intersections, they confidently and gracefully control the movement of rare vehicles, standing straight and proud, despite the fact that the number of cars in the country is small. Their presence remains a symbol of Pyongyang today, its recognizable face and a manifestation of order. If you look closely at the streets of North Korea, you can see another characteristic feature: young people in military uniforms. This phenomenon is absolutely common and at the same time extremely important for the whole country. Everywhere you can see young men and women in military gear. Yes, this is not an accident, but a pattern. Almost every man over the age of 18 is required to complete military service, which lasts up to 10 years, and women at least up to 23. In the country, military service is not just an obligation, it is an integral part of life, which forms strict discipline and a sense of responsibility among young people. Unlike South Korea, where service takes from 18 to 21 months, in North Korea the service life is amazing in its duration, more than 10 years, which is associated with the presence of more than 1 million active soldiers and 6 million members of various paramilitary groups. The country has one of the largest armies in the world, and about 1 in 4 of its inhabitants is somehow connected with the military structure. This explains why there are so few cars on the streets. With a population exceeding 25 million people, there are only about 30,000 active cars registered in the country. This number of vehicles makes North Korea one of the countries with the smallest fleet in the world. Practically no one except government employees and military personnel is allowed to own private transport here. The rest of the residents use the subway, buses or bicycles. However, luxury car models such as Mercedes-Benz or Toyota can sometimes be seen on the streets of Pyongyang. Although there are no official representative offices of these brands in the country, their cars sometimes get here through various channels. Mercedes-Benz is especially popular among officials, and there are also old Volvo 144 models from the 70s that were once purchased but never paid for. Interestingly, the country is not completely dependent on foreign cars. Its own production began later, and it was inspired by the design of such famous brands as Volkswagen, Mercedes, and others. However, due to the isolation of the economy, domestic cars are practically unknown outside the country. As for senior executives, they have complete freedom in choosing cars. Depending on their rank, high-ranking officials drive the most prestigious cars, from Audi R8 and Rolls-Royce to Range Rovers. It is said that Kim Jong-il, or Kim Jong-un, has a rare collection of cars, which indicates the status and wealth of the leadership. Despite the difficulties with importing foreign cars, North Korea has its own car production facility. It began with the release of models inspired by the design of Volkswagen, Mercedes, and other global brands. But due to economic isolation, these domestic cars are almost unknown outside the country. They occupy an important place within the country, especially in the highest echelons of power. High-ranking officials drive the most prestigious cars, which the cost of living in Pyongyang differs significantly from the usual standards of Western countries. For example, rental housing here is about 32% cheaper than in the United States, which makes it more affordable for locals and those who decide to move. However, compared to the American level, the cost of renting in North Korea still remains noticeably lower, by about 80%. A one-bedroom apartment furnished in an ordinary neighborhood costs about 900,000 North Korean won per month, which is difficult to accurately convert into dollars at the current exchange rate, since the country's currency system is subject to restrictions and instability. If we talk about utilities, then for 2 people living in an apartment with an area of about 85 square meters, the monthly cost of heating, electricity and gas is about 120,000 won. This makes utility bills quite affordable, especially when compared with the same level in the United States, where they are usually much higher. As for food, its cost is about 26.4% lower than in the United States. However, the exact prices of specific food products remain difficult to study due to the closed nature of the economy and trade restrictions. Public transport, the main way to travel around the city, is characterized by a low price by international standards. Its cost is significantly lower than Western standards, and despite the difficulties in confirming the exact figures, it can be argued that it is affordable for most residents. At the same time, the cost of services such as visits to gyms or dental clinics is difficult to estimate due to the closed economy and the restrained commercial sector. In general, we can say that the total cost of living in Pyongyang is lower than in the United States, but due to the lack of financial data and limitations of the system, the comparison remains approximate. If you were faced with a choice, would you want to move here or stay in your homeland? What would you do? If you are inclined to want to live in this city, mark it with 1, and if not, with 0. Share your opinion in the comments. In the capital of North Korea, Pyongyang, there are monumental structures that are of worldwide importance and amaze with their scale and architectural expressiveness. Among them, the stadium named after the 1st of May stands out, which is the world's largest sports complex. It was built in the 85th year of the last century and can accommodate up to 115,000 spectators. This stadium is not limited exclusively to football matches. Large-scale mass performances, grandiose shows and solemn ceremonies with the participation of tens of thousands of people take place in its arena. These performances are characterized by exceptional synchronicity and skill, which makes them one of the most impressive in the world, symbolizing the unity and strength of the nation. Another outstanding object is the Gion Hotel, which is one of the most recognizable and unusual skyscrapers on the planet. Built in the shape of a pyramid, it rises to 105 floors, and for many years was considered the tallest hotel in the world. The project involved accommodating more than 7,600 rooms and equipping a revolving restaurant located on top of the building. This ambitious project reflects the country's ambitious plans and its desire to leave a mark on world architecture. Despite the fact that the building is not fully operational yet, it continues to be one of the most striking symbols of the North Korean capital. Not far from the city center, on the banks of the Taedong River, is the Kim Il-sung Square, the largest in the country and one of the largest in the world. Its area reaches 75,000 square meters, and it can accommodate up to 100,000 people. This square serves as the main stage for parades, celebrations, and state ceremonies, being a symbol of the unity of the people and the government. Directly opposite the square stands the famous Yuche Tower, which is a powerful, emblematic monument of North Korean ideology and one of the most recognizable symbols of the city. One of the most striking and impressive sights that can leave an unforgettable mark in the memory of every spectator is the living mosaics created by dancers, athletes, and artists in large stadiums. At these moments, tens of thousands of students come together to form giant moving images, turning vast spaces into real open-air art. These bright and dynamic paintings look like huge, animated canvases that come to life right in front of the audience, creating a unique atmosphere of unity, harmony, and impeccable coherence. In addition to such grandiose events, national holidays and traditional cultural celebrations are also widely celebrated in North Korea. Among them, a special place is occupied by the celebration of the Lunar New Year, which is accompanied by numerous rituals and folk festivals, as well as the Lantern Festival, a bright and poetic event when hundreds of glowing lanterns rise into the night sky. At this moment, a magical picture is created when millions of luminous dots slowly soar upward, filling the dark night with a fabulous atmosphere and turning an ordinary evening into a rare and truly picturesque moment that will be remembered for a long time. These traditions not only emphasize the richness of the country's cultural values, but also create an atmosphere of unity and festive mood among the population. Speaking of gastronomy, it's impossible not to note that North Korean cuisine will leave you with a vivid and lasting impression due to its special balance of flavors. It artfully combines spicy, salty, sour, and sweet notes, creating harmonious and memorable flavor combinations that are difficult to find anywhere else. One of the most famous dishes, which is familiar to many outside the country, is kimchi, a fermented dish that has become a symbol of the national cuisine. But in North Korea, the range of this product is much wider. There are hundreds of varieties of kimchi, and each regional community adds its own flavor to the recipe, adding unique ingredients and features. That is why this dish is considered a must for any tourist who wants to fully immerse himself in the local gastronomic culture. Another popular delicacy is Pyongyang-style cold noodles, which has its roots in the era of the Joseon dynasty, that is, in the distant past of the country. This traditional dish is served chilled in beef broth, to which slices of fresh cucumber, thin slices of beef and boiled egg are added. Unlike Japanese ramen or Italian pasta, it has a light, refreshing taste and a special elastic texture thanks to the use of buckwheat noodles, which gives the dish a unique authenticity and sophistication. This delicacy is appreciated for its simplicity and at the same time for its richness and refinement of taste, as well as for the feeling of coolness and freshness that it gives in hot weather. A special place in national pride is occupied by beer produced in North Korea, which is considered one of the best in East Asia. This beer, known as NN, is produced using British technology, which ensures its rich taste. Many connoisseurs consider it comparable to elite European craft beer because it has high quality and sophistication. It goes especially well with bulgogi, a juicy, flavorful dish of grilled meat that occupies an important place in North Korean cuisine. Combined with beer, it becomes one of the most satisfying and delicious dishes in the country, capable of pleasing even the most demanding gourmets. However, in order to fully enjoy the gastronomic discoveries of North Korea and avoid unpleasant surprises, it is important to know several rules and features related to traveling in this country. First of all, tourists are not allowed to use the local currency. Unlike most countries where payments in national currency are allowed, in North Korea, foreign guests are required to pay only in euros. USD, there are about 1,000 statues in North Korea, with about one for every 35 kilometers, which creates a unique and sometimes somewhat stunning picture. Therefore, if you find yourself in this country, it is worth remembering that your camera may not be welcome in some places as well as in other countries of the world, where strict rules about photographing and videotaping are often not recommended to ignore. In this regard, traveling to North Korea requires special preparation and caution because this country is known for its special strictness and control over tourists and foreigners. If you suddenly come up with the idea of going there to unravel its secrets or understand what lies behind its closed borders, then first you need to prepare all the necessary documents and apply for a visa. Entry to North Korea is possible only through two countries, Russia and China, since they are the only countries that provide visas to enter this country. In some Chinese cities, for example, there are regular flights which greatly facilitates the way for travelers wishing to get to the North Korean airport. The fastest and most convenient route from China runs through Beijing, but for those who prefer scenic views and quieter travel, a good alternative would be to travel from Beijing by train, which goes across the Sino-Russian border to Vladivostok, a remote and picturesque port in the Far East, where you can spend time enjoying the beauty of nature and the atmosphere of the Far Eastern city. For those who like more intense experiences and want to enjoy the beautiful scenery while traveling, a train ride from Beijing is an excellent choice. However, visa processing requires care and accuracy, especially for tourists from the United States and Europe, as the procedure may be more difficult for citizens of these countries. In the case of citizens of the United States, entry to North Korea has been almost completely restricted since the 27th year, when the US State Department imposed a ban on any travel to this country, and valid passports for such purposes are considered invalid without a special permit, which is issued very rarely and only for special reasons. For European citizens, traveling to North Korea seems a little easier, but for them, the process remains strictly controlled. Independent trips are prohibited here, and all tourists are required to join organized groups by traveling through officially approved travel agencies. The standard package of documents required for applying for a visa includes a completed application form, a fresh photo, and a copy of your passport. The time it will take to review the application may vary depending on the situation, so it is recommended to submit the documents at least 1.5 months before the expected date of the trip, in order to avoid unnecessary delays and prepare all the necessary papers in advance. It is important to remember that most types of visas issued to North Korea are short-term and intended for tourism or official business, and there is practically no possibility of long-term residence or retirement here. Visas are not provided for this, and all entries are strictly controlled by government agencies. Before planning a trip, it is extremely important to familiarize yourself with up-to-date information in advance, as the diplomatic situation and entry rules may change, and any innovations may affect your travel plan or even the possibility of its implementation. Follow the latest news and official statements to be sure of your rights and obligations, as well as that your visit will take place without unforeseen difficulties.